What is the worst trade in Major League Baseball history? Was it when the Boston Red Sox literally sold a young Babe Ruth to the New York Yankees in 1920 in order to fund a Broadway show, launching a Murderers Row dynasty and kickstarting a curse that would keep the Red Sox from a title for more than 80 years? Was it when the Mets traded an erratic but promising pitcher named Nolan Ryan to the California Angels for Jim Fregosi? Who can forget Jeff Bagwell for Larry Anderson, or Steve Carlton for Rick Wise? Each of those lopsided trades is fairly ancient history. In the modern age, thanks to better analytics and the bright lights of social media, it's much harder for today's GM to pull off such a boneheaded move. Still, that's somehow exactly what the Colorado Rockies managed to do just 2 years ago, when they sent their star third baseman Nolan Arenado to the St. Louis Cardinals for a package of middling prospects and, somehow, tens of millions of dollars. So, how's it worked out since? Is there anything redeemable about this absolute stink bomb of a move? Let's dig into it and find out. During his first 7 seasons in the big leagues, Nolan Arenado was arguably the best thing to happen to Colorado since John Elway, or legalized cannabis, depending on who you ask. In 2013, the Rockies called up the 22-year-old third baseman from California, and he took to the big leagues right away, knocking 3 hits and his first home run in just his second game. Arenado finished his first major league season with 10 home runs and 52 RBI, and his first Gold Glove award. He received plenty of Rookie of the Year support and established himself as a young up-and-comer to be taken seriously at the hot corner. Hampered by injuries in his sophomore season, Arenado played just 111 games, but again impressed, winning a second Gold Glove while hitting 18 home runs and driving in 61 runs with a slash line of 287, 328, and 500. This was his first sign that he could really be a star hitter at the plate, and things would only go up from here on this front. In 2015, Arenado launched himself into the spotlight as a truly elite big leaguer, earning his first All-Star nod and finishing the season with 42 home runs, 354 total bases, and his first Silver Slugger award, as well as his third consecutive Gold Glove award. In September, he set a Rockies team record by homering in 6 consecutive games, en route to a 6.3 WAR overall, and an 8th place finish in MVP voting, all at the young age of 24. The following season, the now established superstar became the youngest Rockies player ever to hit 100 career home runs at just age 25. He racked up another All-Star appearance, a second Silver Slugger, the highest OPS plus of his career to that point at 129, and a 4th Gold Glove. He also rose to 5th place in MVP voting. Somehow, in 2017, Arenado kept getting marginally better, finishing the season with 37 home runs, a 309 batting average, a 959 OPS, and a 5th straight Gold Glove, making him the first infielder ever to win the award during each of his first 5 seasons in the league. He also won his first Platinum Glove award, recognizing him as the best overall fielder in the National League. This was also the first year Arenado got to appear in the playoffs, with the Rockies falling in the wildcard game to the Diamondbacks 11-8. His next 2 seasons were more of the same, as his remarkable consistency allowed him to blast a combined 79 homers and put up a cumulative WAR of 13.7 along with another 2 Gold Gloves. However, this period will also include the last time the Rockies would be competitive during his tenure, with Colorado being swept in the division series by the Brewers. After 7 seasons in the big leagues, Nolan Arenado was a veritable force of nature. People started to legitimately ask, is this guy on track to be the greatest third baseman in baseball history? Mike Schmidt was quaking in his boots. Probably not, but still. Through 7 seasons, Arenado had 227 home runs and 734 RBI, way more than the 190 home runs and 552 RBI that Schmidt, the all-time home run leader among third basemen, had through his first 7 seasons. And with the 38.7 total WAR, Arenado was not far off Schmidt's 42.4 or Eddie Matthews' 45.1 in the same period in their careers, bearing in mind that both of them debuted in different baseball eras than Arenado, making their overall advanced metrics hard to factor. One thing was certain though, nothing could dim Nolan's star. Then came the 2020 season, and with it COVID-19, and a major falling off in Arenado's production in an albeit limited sample size. Arenado slashed just 253, 303, and 434, with 8 home runs in 48 games, making this his first season since his rookie campaign with a less than 800 OPS. His hard hit rate plummeted, along with his average exit velo, numbers that were arguably more worrisome than his counting stats. If Arenado now had an issue slugging in cores, how would he fare if he were traded to a less favorable offensive environment? All of this is to say, the Rockies were definitely prepared to sell low on Arenado in the offseason, and with rumors that Nolan was decidedly unhappy with his current squad swirling, it probably upped the likelihood he would indeed get moved, further decreasing the Rockies' leverage. He had lost faith in the organization after all. The Rockies had not been able to build a winner around him, even after he had signed a massive 8-year, $260 million deal to stay before the 2019 season. They'd reached the playoffs just twice in his tenure overall, and had not advanced beyond the division series. And what's more, things were not trending up at all, with the team in the middle middle of a big rebuilding phase. It was time for a change for both parties. But what would the Rockies get on the market in return for their potential Hall of Famer? Surely it must be something good, right? Maybe not the package they would have gotten a year prior, but at least 1 to 2 elite prospects and maybe some fringe utility guys, right? Well, the St. Louis Cardinals had had their eye on Arenado for a while, what with the decline and eventual departure of Matt Carpenter, and it would be in the offseason before 2021 that they would finally get him. What would they end up sacrificing for one of the new faces of their franchise? Not much, it turns out. The Rockies sent Arenado and a mind-boggling $51 million to the Cardinals in return for 5 players. The amount of money being moved in a deal like that isn't something you normally see outside of a salary dump, which would have made no sense for the Rockies because Arenado, despite his rough 2020, still had massive amounts of value. But hey, they got 5 players in return. Elite young talent, you ask? First up, a 6'5", 220-pound left-handed pitcher named Austin Gomber. After sitting out most of 2019 because of injury, Gomber amassed a nice 1.86 ERA in 14 games in 2020. Okay, not bad, but certainly not a normal headliner for a trade like this. Gomber profiled as more of a 3rd or 4th starter or a useful southpaw in the bullpen than a future ace. Next up, Elihuris Montero, a solid infield prospect, but one who had struggled in Double-A with the Cardinals before the trade, including a 31% strikeout rate. A little pop in his bat, but by no means a can't-miss prospect. The Rockies also got another infielder, Mateo Gil. Remember Benji Gil? Many older Rangers fans probably do. In the mid-90s, Gil was Texas's shortstop of the future, until he proved to be a major bust. Mateo was Benji's son, and was still stuck in rookie ball at the time he was thrown into the Arenado trade. Again, not really an elite talent. Finally, the Rockies got 2 young right-handed pitchers. Tony Losey, a 6'3", 239-pound hurler with a nice power fastball slider combination, but one who had shown trouble throwing strikes and developing a third pitch. And lastly, Jake Summers, a 10th round selection of the Cardinals in 2019 with just a single season of rookie ball under his belt before COVID-19 hit. Again, neither being of any real note. But maybe the Rockies knew something the Cards didn't. Many young players have broken out and made a seemingly bad trade seem like a decent deal later. Before we take a deeper look at the resulting 2 seasons, we do need to examine another important question. How would the Rockies fans take the mega deal? Well, for some context, back in 2004, Colorado traded another popular slugger with the Great Glove to the Cardinals, Hall of Famer Larry Walker. Rockies fans were devastated. This went over even worse. Both Rockies diehards and sports writers lost their minds. At least Walker was 38 years old and winding down his career. Arenado was still in his prime physically. Why would Colorado do this, and for so little in return? Many at the time claimed that the Cardinals had fleeced the Rockies, and for good reason. With Arenado now alongside other top talent like Paul Goldschmidt, St. Louis was looking like a top dog in the National League Central and a World Series contender yet again. Meanwhile, things looked pretty bleak in Denver. The Rockies had clearly wanted to boost their farm system with a slew of young players, but by opting for Austin Gomber and 4 prospects, the highest of which ranked just 7th in the Cardinals system, it appeared they'd gone for quantity, not quality. There wasn't a single headliner for Rockies fans to get excited about. Plus, this move played a huge part in Trevor Story departing Colorado as well, their one building block remaining, having turned down a reported $140 million offer from Colorado to sign a 6-year deal with Boston in 2022. But Story was not the only one leaving Colorado in the wake of Arenado's departure. A few months after engineering the lopsided trade, the Rockies parted ways with GM Jeff Burditch. Rockies fans, however, were not very upset about that. With the immediate aftershocks out of the way, let's return to how the trade itself turned out. Here's a hint. Not great. In fact, maybe even worse than it looked initially. Since Nolan Arenado joined the Cardinals, he has played like, well, Nolan Arenado. Not the 2020 version of himself, mind you, but the player who looks like he is well on his way to being enshrined in Cooperstown someday. The one who's in the prime of his career. The guy who has now won 10 consecutive Gold Glove Awards and an unprecedented 6 straight Platinum Glove Awards. Quite simply, like a player you would never trade in a million years. In his first season with the Cardinals in 2021, Arenado belted 34 home runs to go along with 105 RBIs and a 4.1 WAR. Still not his peak numbers, but well worth the diminished salary the Cards were paying for him. But then in 2022, he somehow nearly doubled his WAR to a whopping 7.9, finishing 3rd in the NL MVP race with 30 home runs and a slash line of 293, 358, and 533. Prime Arenado was back, and in some ways, better than ever. On top of his immediate heroics, Arenado had also continued to make his case for being the best defensive third baseman of all time. After now 10 seasons, Arenado has posted a cumulative defensive WAR of 18.0. This is well on his way to surpassing Hot Corner Hall of Famer Adrian Beltre, who had a total defensive WAR of 28.0 in 19 seasons, and has even allowed him a shot at catching Brooks Robinson too, who tallied a total WAR of 39.1 over 23 seasons. It's a long shot, but still a possibility. And about those 5 prospects that the Rockies got in return for Arenado, well, the Rockies did improve from the 29th best farm system in baseball before the trade to the 25th best a year later. So that's something, but not really a huge leap forward. As for the 5 players, their performance has been, how shall we say, mixed. Austin Gomber, the only major leaguer the Rockies got back, has struggled with injuries while posting a 4.53 ERA in 2021 and then a 5.56 ERA in 2022. Even advanced metrics like ERA plus and win probability added peg him as a below average major league starter overall in these 2 seasons, even when adjusting for cores. Perhaps the most promising player has been Elihuris Montero, who, after being traded, clubbed 28 home runs between the AA and AAA levels for the Rockies, even getting called up to the show in 2022 for 53 games. During this period, the 23-year-old hit .233 with 6 home runs, a .432 slugging percentage, and an OPS plus mark of 85. But with a K percentage over 30 and a walk rate under 5, it's clear Montero will need some time to really hone his plate discipline before we can say he grades out as a decent piece in this trade. The other infielder in this deal, Mateo Gil, has not so far delivered on his own promise. He's battled injuries and has been moved away from shortstop, not even managing to progress above single A, where he hit an unimpressive .247 for Spokane in 2022. Jake Summers has also been stuck in single A, relegated to relief duties only, posting an ugly ERA of 5.59. His 30.4% strikeout rate shows some promise, but so far he's given up way too many hits and walks to get anywhere near Colorado. And finally, after going 4-1 with a 3.09 ERA in his first 12 starts of 2022, Tony Locey emerged as the second former Cardinal farmhand in the deal to earn a ticket out of Spokane and single A. But things went decidedly downhill afterwards when he posted an ungodly 12.11 ERA over 35 innings in Double A. Ouch. The dust has now settled 2 years after the blockbuster Nolan Arenado trade, and while it may not be the worst trade ever in MLB history, I think we've made a good case that it will likely go down as the worst of MLB's modern era. The Cardinals, for their part, look poised to win yet another NL Central crown and make a postseason run behind Arenado, Paul Goldschmidt, and company. With his current contract, the team will enjoy Nolan's services through his age 36 season in 2027. His production may decline by that time, but after posting his highest WAR ever last year at age 31, it doesn't seem likely that's coming anytime soon. The Rockies, on the other hand, still don't seem to have a direction for their team and appear destined to finish near the bottom of the NL West for the foreseeable future. The good news is that the Rockies do have some talented players working their way up through the minors, including yet another crop of young infield stars like Ezequiel Tovar and Adael Amador. Will one of these guys be the next Arenado, Tulowitzki, or Story, thrilling the Colorado faithful until it's time to move on to greener pastures? Only time will tell, but based on the recent development of both Brendan Rodgers and Ryan McMahon, I wouldn't be holding my breath. Thanks for watching, everyone. Make sure to drop a like if you enjoyed the vid, subscribe for more baseball content, and make sure to click on this playlist for other essay videos just like this.